It's one of the more exciting political races in the country, Arizona's 8th congressional district. You've seen two of the four GOP hopefuls right here on Freedom Watch, Jesse Kelly and Brian Miller. All four Republican candidates are military veterans. All four consider themselves conservatives. But which of the four is the strongest candidate to unseat the incumbent, U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords? And which of the candidates is most faithful to the Constitution? Joining me now is Andy Goss, Republican candidate in Arizona's 8th congressional district, one of the four. The Arizona Daily Star calls Andy's demeanor, quote, "tell it like it is folksiness." Andy, welcome to Freedom Watch.
Thanks for having me, Judge. I appreciate it.
How does the Republican leadership accept the fact when the people competing for the Republican line are not big government John McCain types, but small government, maximum individual liberty, constitutionalists?
Well, I wish I could answer that honestly, Judge, but the fact is I've never done this before. I'm new to politics, as are three of the others. And when I announced my intention to run for this seat, I was still in Iraq. I wasn't even here on the ground yet. So I think there was some skepticism initially, but as they've gotten to know us all, I think things have improved.
Well, what is the message that you deliver to the people of Arizona with respect to the right of the individual to have natural liberties respected by the government and the obligation of the government to respect the Constitution?
Well, one of the messages that I really hope to convey, and that is very important to me, is that our government is out of control. It's too big. And, George Bush doesn't get a pass from me on that, even though he's a Republican. He did more to grow government than any Republican in recent memory. My message is simple. Government needs to get out of the way. Government is the problem. What is it Ronald Reagan said? The words people don't want to hear are, "I'm with the government and I'm here to help." The government has overstepped its bounds. Our representatives don't represent us. They represent themselves. They represent their own power and their perceived prestige. And I think people have had enough. I know I've had enough of it.
Andy, I agree with everything that you just said. But virtually everything that you just said is defied by the career of the #1 Republican in Arizona, who himself is in a competitive battle for the Republican nomination to succeed himself. I'm speaking of John McCain. Question, are you and are the other three young constitutionalist Republicans competing with you being shunned by Republican leadership that inexplicably wants the big government progressive John McCain back in office representing the state of Arizona?
Well, Judge, I can only speak to the Republican, the leadership that I've personally met with, being Pima County, Cochise County, and they've been nothing but gracious to me. The big party itself, I've had virtually no contact with. And that's fine because a lot of people, again, they're skeptical of both parties, not just the Republicans or Democrats. They're skeptical of both of them. And they should be, because quite honestly, they haven't acted the way they're supposed to act. But you can't paint us all with that brush, Judge. We're not all big spenders. We're not all growers of government. We're not all going to act the same way. And I think that's why all four of us are running, is to reestablish some order in this thing, because it's gotten out of control and people have had enough.
Let me ask you a couple of specific questions, if you could answer them yes or no. Would you have voted for TARP?
No.
Would you have voted for the stimulus packages?
No.
Would you have voted for the Patriot Act?
Not in its present form, no.
All right. Would you, if you were the president, have sent 100,000 troops to Afghanistan, to a wretched place where no Western government has ever been able to change the form of government and the lifestyle that the poor people there endure?
Yes, I would, and I have my reasons, and I hope to get to explain those to you.
Let me hear them. Well,
Judge, right now, the situation in Afghanistan is different from the one in Iraq. The reason that I am so supportive of the troops in Afghanistan right now, and I know everyone's supportive of the troops, but the mission itself is, #1, is Pakistan is nuclear. And I don't want to wake up one morning to find out that al-Qaeda has come back into Afghanistan after we've left, gotten hold of some nuclear weapons, and one of our cities is glowing.
Well, does that mean that we have to be in Afghanistan forever? Because the minute we leave, they'll come back.
No, sir, it does not mean we need to be there forever. One of the problems is Karzai has appointed, and the governorships or the provinces there, he appointed the governors. They were not freely elected. Once we accomplish the mission there of making sure the government is free and elected, and we have enough troops there with the Afghanis that can defend themselves against the Taliban or Al-Qaeda, then we can begin to leave. But right now, the situation is tenuous. The border with Pakistan really doesn't exist. They come across it back and forth all the time. And again, the Prime Minister of India, the Prime Minister of Australia are both committed to success in Afghanistan, and I think we need to give them the support. We do not want to see Afghanistan turn into another Somalia.
Last question before I let you go. For whom will you vote,
Yes, sir.
J.D. Hayworth or John McCain, when you go into the ballot booth in your own primary election?
Well, Judge, that's a tough one because there's also two other guys, an independent named Ian Gillies, I think his name is, and Jim Deacon. Both good men. J.D. Hayworth has got a history about him. He's a conservative, there's no doubt about it. I haven't made up my mind yet, Judge, but I'm watching.
All right, Andy Goss, we wish you well in this race. We'll probably have you back before the primary. Thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thanks for your time, Judge. I appreciate it.
Sure.